Hello everyone, this is the Great Pumpkin speaking and welcome to this new army report for Ogre Battle 64. Since last time, I've managed to get over here on the map and conquer Fort Romulus. So before we get on with the actual army report, there's a little something I'd like to show you. So, some characters actually get their class changed at some point throughout the storyline. For instance, let's use Leia here, who starts off as a Blaze Knight at level 4, which is the equivalent of a Valkyrie, and at chapter 3 actually turns into a Rune Knight, the equivalent of a Freya. So, the thing about these characters is that their stat growth are actually different depending on which class they are. Like Leia here, as I said, used the base stat growth of the Valkyrie till chapter 3, where she used the one from the Freya. What this means is that actually, if you avoid leveling her up until chapter 3, then she will get full bonus stats from being a Freya, which actually will make her much stronger. The reason I'm explaining this to you is that this is exactly what I did with Magnus. So instead of leveling him from level 3 up to level 26, well, I've actually waited until chapter 4 till he turned into a general, which gives him quite a bit of stats, to be honest. This is what we call a Pure General Magnus. So by doing that, Magnus has gotten stat growth about on par with his father, Enchanters. And Enchanters has a reputation of being one of the strongest melee character in the game. And using that method, well, Magnus is now nearly as powerful as him, with a slight difference in mentality or something like that. Might have been vitality. So what this also means is that we've now got Magnus as part of our group. So now we'll have a look at what we've managed to make out of him. Let's do this. We'll start off against the Boulder Golem with two Enchanters. Magnus' group consists of himself, of course, who will hit 3 times being a general, as well as 2 goblins, each with different sword. The one in the middle uses the Penitent's Holy Sword, whereas the other one uses the Adamant Katana. The Freyas on the second row hits 2 times, one of them uses the Evil Spear, whereas the other one uses the Bentisca, a Water Elemental Spear. Now the problem here is that Magnus is somehow hell-bent on attacking that Boulder Golem, which means that he won't really be doing much. Unfortunately, that cycle is over, but don't worry, we'll see him in the next full-blown stage that I'll do soon. That group isn't all that powerful, to be honest, although it does show us that Freyas can deal some fairly reasonable damage. But what this also taught me is that goblins are really awful. Doesn't matter how good their sword is, they just don't follow up. That is kind of a problem at the moment, but I've got other groups that have trouble, so I might actually be able to do something about that soon by moving things around. So, we'll move on to Cornelia's group. Now we are off against the Dragoon, 2 Paladins, and 2 Black Knights. That's actually kind of scary. Okay, that Black Knight in the back row is a terrible idea, but still. So this group actually didn't change at all since last time, except that our Paladins actually hit pretty darn hard. We've got fairly middle of the line damage, which is actually pretty good. Those guys are still as powerful as ever. Although they didn't seem to do that much damage against those guys, which is a little annoying. Still, it's only 1 cycle. Given that their hits are pretty much all over the place, that's actually pretty good. They're even hitting harder than that Dragoon. We've lost the Diana here, which is a little annoying, but not such a big deal. And that's the end of that. We've actually done pretty good. That group is still one of my strongest contributors. So that's it for Cornelia's group. Next off is Mary. Mary hasn't changed at all since last time, and this is actually not a really good matchup for her. With that Cockatrice in the back row, she can't really do anything, and the way they are positioned, we can't actually really do any sort of damage against them. So this means that they're gonna completely destroy us. We have managed to do a petrification on my Azidakas in the back, which isn't all that good. Our leader didn't manage to do anything, and that Cockatrice has actually managed to avoid the entire thing. So yeah, and they've got the perfect tactics to deal with us, so this group wouldn't be able to do anything against those guys. Oh, that's right, gotta let them finish their cycle. Oh, that was it. Oh well. Doesn't make much of a difference now, does it? Still, it's mostly the same group as usual. I've found that the Dragon Master actually hits fairly hard despite only having a Needle of Light. I'm actually surprised, although I still think Freya's are a better choice. Their stats are fairly similar, but they hit a little harder due to having better weapons. That's one of the problems with many classes. They are powerful stat-wise, but they don't have any weapons of use. The Enchanters that we have this group is the very proof of that. However, since we got to the Tree Moss Mountain, we've actually managed to replace our right Enchanter from his Fool Doll to the Heaven Doll, which deals Holy Elemental damage, which is actually pretty darn good. I've also moved our Quetzalcoatl a little over so the group is a little more cinematic. Still, you would want him in the middle usually. Not such a great formation on the enemy for us given the way this is arranged, but we're still doing pretty alright. Once we reach the next stage, you will see that I've earned a number of dolls that will make this group pretty darn powerful. Those Enchanters are doing really well, I'm actually pretty impressed. So yep, that's it for those guys. I really do love that group, it's one of my favorite ones. Next up is Bento, our group full of casters. Not such a great enemy group, but we'll do what we can. Mostly, this group is mostly the same as it used to be, all Karakeons except with the Siren in the back who has the Harvest Leg. I did change their spells though. The ones in the front actually uses the Lava Shot combo magic, whereas in the back they use the Plasma Shot. No, it's Plasma Storm, my mistake. The Plasma Storm is actually one of the strongest damaging moves in the game as far as combo magics go, I think. I've seen it outperform a number of them quite a few times, although it might just be that this group is just that powerful. Still, what's dangerous with it is that it can actually change stone golems into boulder golems and skeletons into ghosts, which is something you definitely don't want. Well, we did one cycle too much, but they managed to wipe out the enemy unit. So there. So, after Bento, we got Taylor's group. Another one of the groups that changed most because while I was in Celesis, I've actually managed to get my hands on 2 Angel Knights from the enemy group using Love and Pieces. So, by increasing their alignment back into the positive, or well, lawful if you will, I've managed to actually turn them into Seraphs. Seraphs do an area of effect much like the dragon in a cross shape in the back, whereas in the front they hit with Trusting Weapon, which is pretty much, you know, basic Needle of Lights and so on. They're not doing too bad in this run, although I've found that strangely my Ravens are outperforming them. The one in the front with the Gramlock axe that I got from Fort Romulus has actually been kicking all sort of asses. And by being pushed 1 row back, our Seraph has actually used the Banish move. So there. Not even sure how far we are in the cycle, I think we went through it. So yep, all done. The plan with that group is to get rid of the Ravens entirely. I'll try to get another Angel Knight back in Latium, which will mean that I will have 3 Seraphs in the front row, and I will also get another kind of beast in the back row to finish this group. The Raven Men will probably be moved to Magnus' group or Anderson's group, which we'll see later. Now we've got Cashel's group. They didn't change all that much, although I've moved our pumpkin head to the center to maximize its chances to actually hit the things that I want, which isn't always the case, unfortunately. Although that's a little dangerous because the priest can actually tank much better than the pumpkin head can. Still, we'll make do with what we have. With her Celestial Mace, my priest can pretty much make this group nearly invulnerable, unless I get really unlucky, which does happen. Our Sun Masters have gotten significantly stronger due to getting better weapon. The Swordmaster in the middle used the Chalad Hog, one of the strongest Holy Elemental Great Sword. The one to the left used the Durandal, a Bane weapon, whereas the one in the right used the Ogre, Water Aspected Great Sword. Fairly strong stuff, to be honest. Although that other group is pretty tough, I'll admit. Still, they managed to kill something. That's actually pretty darn good. So there, cycle is done. We've done a pretty good job against those guys. This group is powerful, but I do hate wasting a space on a priest. So, after that, we've got Cade's group. Cade's group is about the same of what it was, and a really dangerous proposition given that cockatrice in the back, especially since those guys are fairly agile and have a tendency, or, well, with dexterity to get lower damage from all of the stuff I have, so that's no good. Our archer in the back has managed to get the Bow of Thunderbolt, a wind-expected bow, which will allow her to do some fairly respectable damage. Whereas our Siren here still uses Dark Quest to devastating results, and use the Toledo Staff, one of the strongest ones in the game. Unfortunately, if she's petrified, that's no use to me. Again here you can see how fragile pumpkinheads are, but they are making a number on those guys despite quite a bit of bad luck. That's alright. I'm fairly fine with that. So Cade's group, still as powerful as ever, although I gotta admit, I ran this group through a couple of playthroughs and I'm getting a little tired of it. Whatever. So, Anderson's group. Anderson changed quite a bit, namely because his goblins got moved to Magnus's group. This means that I had to replace them by raising up a Hellhound into a Cerberus. Although I could have gotten it from a neutral encounter, but you know, might as well. One of the big change here is that my Beastmaster has actually gotten the Holy Comet, a Holy Expected Whip, which makes him a little more powerful. It's kind of a waste really, because Beastmaster have really great strength growth, although it seems that given the debuff Beast, the developers completely forgot about putting any decent whip. I had to wait to chapter 4 to actually get one. So you know. Not that great. This group is a little underperforming, although I feel like it might get better once I can get Raven in there. So, you know, we'll be fine. Fortunately our cycle is over, so that's gotta be it for those guys. The reason I don't change the claws of the ninjas in the back is that the Balder Claw actually increased their intelligence, which actually controls the damage they deal. You see they deal about 40 damage, which isn't nearly as good as Sirens or Archmage. Those can hit way over 65 of damage, so not that great. Still, we're doing pretty alright as far as I'm concerned, so that's good. Oh, before I forget, there is one little thing. We got this sword back in Fort Romulus, the Natos, which is one of my favorite ones and one that I feel matches Magnus pretty well. It's a fairly strong sword for a particular character. If you look at this, the penitence adds up to 217 strength for him. For this one it's 280, that's actually pretty good. The Fafnir is better, but it's physical damage. This means that there is more resistance to it, so it's not a good thing. Magnus, being a general, uses 3 slash up front, 2 in the middle, and 2 wind blast in the back. I've tried to run him using the wind blast, but they're actually pretty bad. In fact, Magnus was a much better caster as a Vanguard than he was as a general, which is a little strange. But yeah, that's gonna be it for the time being. Thank you for watching everyone, this was Raid Pumpkin. You all have a pleasant time now. Bye bye!